The One Pillar Pagoda is an architectural wonder located in Hanoi, Vietnam. The building is a representation of Vietnam's strong cultural connection to ancestral legacy, as it was built to honor the Bodhisattva that gave Emperor Tong a miraculous son. Originally built in 1049, the pagoda has endured the strifes of war and time, being reconstructed many times throughout history. The One Pillar Pagoda is a testament to Vietnam's fight for decolonization and creating a legacy free from the influence of French colonialism. The One Pillar Pagoda's significance to Vietnamese culture and society is connected to the desire and model of legacy. This connection is made using methodologies such as semiotics, iconography, and literary sources. The use of semiotics, defined as the interpretation of signs and symbols, as well as iconography, the interpretation of visual images or symbols, help to further contextualize and deepen the symbols and objects used in the construction, restoration, and use of the One Pillar Pagoda. The structure houses symbols including the lotus and the structure rising above the water, representing the spiritual world over the material world, an idea found in Buddhism. Additionally, the pagoda is used as a beacon for Vietnam's perseverance against decolonization, with its continued restoration time and time again, even after it was destroyed by the French. Even after decades of independence, French influence remains in Vietnam, and many buildings and architectural styles have been built in the same style as the French, most notably in the neoclassical, neo-Romanesque, and Art Deco style. Today, the efforts to establish identity and legacy are more focused towards economic and political influence, with the pagoda serving as a constant reminder of Vietnamese heritage. In this audiovisual presentation, I will be mainly using iconography and analyzing the physical aspects of the building and the meaning behind them. To start off, I'll begin with the general overview and look into the history of the One Pillar Pagoda. Originally built in 1049, it has seen close to 1,000 years of history, seeing things like war and poverty. The creation of the One Pillar Pagoda is traced back to a prophetic dream given to Emperor Li Tai Tong, the third ruler of the Li dynasty. In this dream, the Bodhisattva Quan Am appeared before him, seated on a lotus flower and presenting the emperor with a baby son. Emperor Tong interpreted this dream as a divine prophecy, and not long after, the emperor married a peasant girl who gave birth to his son. Upon the completion of the prophecy, Emperor Tong sought guidance from a famous monk named Tien Tue, who advised the emperor to construct a temple like the one presented in his dream. The emperor swiftly ordered the construction of the temple, erecting it within the serene Tai Kam garden of the imperial palace. The pagoda has seen its fair share of veneration and destruction, being rebuilt and reconstructed many times throughout its extensive history, and due to this, images of renovations and add-ons are very far in between. In 1105, Emperor Li Nyan Tong sought to enhance the pagoda's glory by commissioning the creation of a grand bronze bell. The bell's tones were intended to carry prayers and blessings across the country. In addition to the bell, the emperor ordered the excavation of a second lake, hoping to enhance the pagoda's serene setting. Emperor Tong also later ordered a restoration of the pagoda complex in Lin Chiao Pond, adding a rainbow bridge across a stream. The pagoda then went 100 years, remaining untouched for the most part, until 1249, when the pagoda complex was restored. Unfortunately, the grand bronze bell was melted down in order to produce weapons for the Ming dynasty in the 1400s. During this time, the Ming dynasty did not recognize the Ho dynasty that was recently established, demanding the return of the Tran dynasty. This resulted in a war to break out in 1406, lasting until 1424, when Vietnam won the hard-fought war. This war freed Vietnam from China's rule and solidified Vietnam as its own place. The pagoda, unfortunately, was not safe from deterioration, as the pagoda complex then went through a period of time without any maintenance, ending in 1805, due to internal conflicts between the Qing and Nguyen dynasties. This conflict was a pivotal moment for Vietnam's history, as it separated the country into the Northern Trinh dynasty and the Southern Nguyen dynasty. This internal conflict led to the neglect of the architecture previously established, causing the pagoda to be the last remnant of the once great pagoda complex. The pagoda remained unchanged since then, only receiving routine maintenance for 150 years, until it was destroyed by explosives in 1954 as a result of the First Indochina War, the lone pillar being the only remaining proof of the prophetic temple. The pagoda was then swiftly rebuilt in the following year based on blueprints left from the Nguyen dynasty. The One Pillar Pagoda has remained strong since then and will continue to be maintained as one of Vietnam's national heritage sites. The One Pillar Pagoda's origin story is heavily shrouded in reverence for the Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara, or better known in Vietnam as Quan Am. In Vietnam, Quan Am is a protector, grants wishes, and is a symbol of hope and comfort. Uniquely, Quan Am is depicted as a female in Vietnam, shown on the right, as opposed to the male depictions found in other cultures. This only serves to highlight the importance she has towards fertility, childbirth, and familial well-being. The origin story of Quan Am is also heavily associated with the Confucian value of filial piety, and he also explains the portrayal of Quan Am as a woman. The story of Quan Am the King is the story of a monk, soon to be Quan Am, striving to attain the title of Buddha. As a final test, Shakyamuni Buddha wanted to test him, making him reborn as the King. The King belonged to the poorest family in the village until she was married off to A.S.I.A.N, a rich man. One night, the King noticed her husband had a hair out of place on his chin and decided to use a knife to try and cut the stray hair off, causing A.S.I.A.N to wake up with a knife to his throat. Fearing he had been the victim of an attempted assassination, A.S.I.A.N kicked her out. The King then went to a monastery dressed as a man in order to become a monk, successfully becoming a novice. There, a woman named The Mo fell in love with him. Due to the obligations of monks, the King rejected all of The Mo's advances. The Mo contrived a plan to sleep with the commoner and get pregnant in order to frame the King. The Mo's strategy worked, causing the King to get beaten and kicked out of the monastery. Despite the Mo's trickery, the King adopted the baby and went around the village begging for milk for the baby. After 3 years, the King passed away from exhaustion, causing everyone in the village to realize that the King was not the father because she was a woman. After her death, Shakyamuni Buddha allowed her to become the Bodhisattva Quan Am. Quan Am's reach goes well beyond religious significance, as mention of her can be found in Vietnamese art, literature, and public life, being almost synonymous with kindness, wisdom, and mercy. In Vietnamese literature, Quan Am is associated with the stories of her divine intervention, guiding people in times of distress. In Vietnam, there is an annual Avalokitesvara festival in Da Nang, which celebrates her compassionate spirit through rituals, flower offerings, and prayers, which reflect on the community's resounding reverence for her. Although Quan Am goes by many names such as Guan Yin, Avalokitesvara, Quan Tu Thai, or Quang Im, all are associated with the resounding philosophies of wisdom, kindness, and humility. The one-pillar pagoda was carefully crafted in a way that truly represents its importance to the country. The construction of the pagoda was not taken lightly, going as far as using the most precious wood at the time, the erythrolium 40, otherwise known as lim san. To put this into perspective, the average salary of a person in Vietnam is 90 million Vietnamese dong. In comparison, 1 cubic meter of lim sam go, or green lim wood, can range from 26 million to 30 million Vietnamese dong. In the U.S., that is equivalent to spending $20,000 on 1 cubic meter of wood. The most recent renovation to the pagoda cost 31 billion Vietnamese dong, or 1.18 million US dollars. The significance of the wood goes beyond that of just its economical value and extends to the importance the wood has to Vietnamese culture. The green lim tree is one of Vietnam's 4 precious woods, and many local residents take pride in protecting the trees with government assistance. In Vietnam, the tree is known for its strength, durability, and resilience against time. Many of the trees have been protected for decades, and some of the trees have lived for hundreds of years, one of them living for 1,000 years, such as the one pictured on the left. The green lim tree is frequently used in creating articulate pieces of furniture for affluent families. However, the more common use is in the creation of temples, such as the one-pillar pagoda. The wood is also used to create altars of statues of gods, with the intention of the creations being blessed by the gods. It is believed that green lim wood has the ability to connect the earthly world and the spiritual world. Aside from construction and religion, the seeds, bark, and leaves can also be used as medicine, shown to exhibit anti-proliferation, anti-inflammatory, cardiotonic, and pain-relieving properties. The careful construction of the one-pillar pagoda is not limited to the materials used. On the roof of the pagoda lie 2 twin dragons. The 2 dragons lay their tails towards each other, but with their bodies bent towards the moon in the middle. The dragons represent Yang, while the moon represents Yin. The sum of the 2 dragons and the moon equal 3. This number symbolizes fertility, which also explains why people often burn 3 incense sticks at a time. The moon was often used to predict the fate of a country or dynasty. Additionally, the moon symbolizes the 5 elements of Feng Shui. It gathers sacred power to support the mutual generation and compatibility of the 2 extremes of yin and yang. It brings life, fertility, wealth, great fortune, power, and protection of ancestors for future generations. On the interior portion of the pagoda, the altar is shown. The Bodhisattva Quan Am is shown surrounded by offerings of gold and fruits. Fruit offerings in Vietnam are very common and show high regard. The fruits shown are apples, oranges, plantains, pomelo, and Buddha's hands. These fruits symbolize wealth and as an offering extend the utmost respect to the god they are offered to. The one-pillar pagoda is an exemplary piece of architecture that grounds the cultural heritage of Vietnam to a building. The structure firmly stands as proof of a greater message, physical evidence of the emperor's desire to leave his legacy. The pagoda serves as a model, upholding the legacy of the past and extending it, connecting generations from the past and generations yet to come to each other. The careful construction and rich history of the pagoda all highlight the importance the building has to the history of the country and consistently work to uphold and unify the country. This is further supported by the decision to imprint the national currency with the outline of the building, showing everlasting support and dedication to those that came before.